Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into something creating a massive buzz everywhere. HR analytics. You hear it all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's the game changer, promising objectivity, fairness, efficiency, all powered by data and AI.
It really is the dominant story. The idea that algorithms make better decisions more reliable, less biased for everything from hiring to performance.
And that promise, it's definitely exciting. But, well, we dug into some recent research, especially a big review by Giermindl and others, and found, well, another side to the story. It's not just about the benefits. This work really highlights the potential, let's call them dark sides or perils, for companies and for employees.
Absolutely. The potential is there, no doubt. But we really need to unpack some basic assumptions about these algorithms. This belief that you can perfectly streamline complex humans just like you optimize, I don't know, supply chains or finances. People are different, aren't they?
They really are. So in this deep dive, expect us to look beyond just the hype. We want to flag some of those unintended, maybe even undesirable consequences, especially as the tech gets smarter. Things like learning algorithms, prescriptive analytics.
Right, prescriptive or autonomous analytics. These are systems that don't just report or predict, they actually suggest actions, or sometimes even take actions, often without much direct human checking. Think of this as a kind of reality check, helping you think more deeply about where HR analytics is heading and what it means for, your workplace.
Okay, let's get into the first big concern the research raises, the illusion of control and reductionism. The promise is tempting, isn't it? Objective, accurate measures of performance by quantifying skills, experience, even personality traits. Hard numbers for soft stuff.
And that's exactly where the illusion creeps in. Trying to quantify everything creates this, false sense of certainty. An illusion of objectivity, as the researchers put it. The core problem isn't just messy data. It's what they call a conceptual category error. Algorithms have to simplify things. They take complex human behavior, knowledge work, and squash it into measurable bits, proxies, basically treating real, complex people like, data objects.
So you're flattening the human experience to fit a spreadsheet, essentially. How does that actually play out? Like, take Microsoft My Analytics tool. The pitch sounds great, right?
Yeah.
Boost your productivity by looking at emails, meetings.
Exactly. And for personal use, sure, it can be helpful. But the danger is it's double use. It's sold as a personal tool, but it also gives management incredibly detailed behavioral data. So imagine decisions about promotions, maybe even letting someone go based heavily on email response times or meeting links. What if the algorithm flags your focus time as low? It doesn't know why. Maybe you were doing deep creative work, not just easy tasks. That leads to really flawed ideas, feelings of unfairness.
Right. You could be the best problem solver, but look bad on the metrics. So the upshot is, this reductionism, especially when it looks like objective data, can lead to bad strategic calls. It can even hurt employee development if managers just trust the numbers instead of, actually talking to people and using their own judgment. The idea isn't no data, but data-informed choices, not just data-driven. Add that qualitative insight, those real conversations.
And here's the kicker, as you said. The more advanced the tech gets, like prescriptive analytics, the harder it is to even spot this reductionism. It just gets baked in from the start.
Which leads nicely into the next issue, self-fulfilling prophecies and path dependencies. Again, the promise sounds good. Use historical data to predict behavior, anticipate trends, find the best talent, be proactive.
Who wouldn't want that crystal ball? But the self-fulfilling prophecy part is tricky. It's when the organization's actions, based on the prediction, actually make the prediction happen.
How does that work?
Okay, say an algorithm flags certain employees as high potential. So the company invests heavily in only their training. Naturally, those employees probably will perform better later on, but then it's easy to say, see, the algorithm was right. You forget that the extra training, the investment, was the real cause, not just the algorithm's prediction. It reinforces faith in potentially biased prediction.
Okay. And that connects to path dependencies and bias, right? Relying on the past locks you in.
Precisely. If your historical data reflects past biases, maybe you hired mostly men. For example, the algorithm learns those patterns. Then its future recommendations just keep repeating those biases. It creates these past dependencies.
Is there a clear example of that?
Well, the classic one is Amazon's hiring tool experiment. They trained it on 10 years of their own hiring data. Problem was that data was mostly male hires. So the algorithm learned to prefer men and actively filter out women. Amazon had to scrap it. It showed how easily these systems can reinforce social biases, limit diversity, and just repeat the past. You need those regular audits to catch this stuff.
So the big risk for you, for any organization, is becoming backward-looking. Relying too much on these tools means you might just keep making the same old mistakes, becoming less innovative, less flexible, just when the world demands the opposite. Like driving forward, staring only at the rearview mirror.
Yeah, exactly. And that brings us to the third, maybe deepest peril: impaired transparency, reduced autonomy, and eroding human judgment. The promise here was more transparency, more fairness, leading to more committed employees, even better managers.
Sounds good on paper, but the reality can be darker, especially as machine learning gets more complex. The decision-making becomes opaque, right? A black box.
Wow.
It gets really hard, sometimes impossible even for HR folks, to know why the algorithm decided something. So who's accountable? If an algorithm makes a huge decision about someone's career, hiring, firing, promoting, who takes responsibility, where does the buck stop?
That's a huge question. And it's not just about seeing inside the box, it's about control. Algorithmic control can seriously reduce employee autonomy. It swaps human interaction and flexible work styles for rigid KPIs and goals set by the system. Someone aptly called it digital Taylorism. Old factory efficiency ideas, but for knowledge work. Very controlling.
Digital Taylorism, that really paints a picture. Any specific examples of how that looks day to day?
Sure, think about software like Percolata in retail. It uses sensors and sales data to create optimal schedules minute by minute. Managers basically hit a button, the schedule goes to phones, it cuts out the manager-employee conversation about shifts, high performers get more hours, others less, all automated.
Wow, so the manager is almost out of the loop on staffing their own team.
Pretty much. Or look at a Siemens factory using software called Preactor. It gave workers exact step-by-step instructions. This reduced the need for their own skills, their judgment, and the workers felt it. They complained about losing autonomy, feeling devalued. When managers start seeing the algorithm as just better, more objective, they might ignore their own intuition, even go against their gut feeling because the algorithm said so. What happens to experienced judgment then? Is it just noise?
It sounds like managers could end up just being messengers for the machine, losing their own role.
It's a definite risk. And for employees, it can mean no human point of contact for real feedback, for sorting out problems. That leads to frustration, anxiety, stress. When you hand over core management tasks to algorithms, you risk sidelining human reason, human connection, empathy, nuance. Those things get chipped away. Managers need to consciously fight that, stay critical, stay human.
Okay, so wrapping this up, as you navigate this changing world of work, what's the takeaway for you? HR analytics clearly offers big opportunities. Efficiency, insights. Yes. But it's vital to see these perils we've talked about, that illusion of control, simplifying people into data, those self-fulfilling prophecies and biases baked into the system. And maybe most worrying, the loss of transparency, autonomy, and frankly, human judgment and connection.
And remember, these dangers aren't guaranteed. They mostly happen when these powerful tools are adopted without enough critical thought, without reflection. Organizations, managers, you need realistic expectations. Understand that analyzing humans isn't like analyzing inventory. It demands constant critical thinking about how these systems are used, checked, and questioned.
Which leaves us with a big question to chew on, especially as AI gets even more autonomous. How do we make sure organizations prioritize human dignity, ethics, and those crucial human skills and relationships? What's the right balance between algorithmic efficiency and, well, actual human flourishing at work? Something to think about until our next deep dive.